Welcome to JASP. We are going to go over the week 9 paper JASP practice assignment. Hopefully you have already done the previous assignment where you don't have anything to turn in, but where you were just fiddling around in JASP. If you have not done that already, please stop immediately and go back and do that previous one. At the very least, watch the video of how to do it because this is going to be very confusing without it. And JASP is already a tiny bit extremely annoying. So we don't want it to be more annoying than it has to be. Go into the assignment, download the data set, open JASP, then realize you can't open the file. Yell a little bit, and then realize there is a solution to that problem. So JASP can only open .csv files. You need to save the file that is currently saved as an Excel file as a .csv file. The way to do that, open the file in Excel. Click Save As .csv file. Rename it. It's going to tell you you're going to have to get rid of some of the extra sheets in the workbook. You can just choose to delete those, or you can copy and paste the data into a new file and save that as a .csv file. Whatever you do, get this into a .csv file, and then open it up in JASP. It looks like this. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Hopefully, it's not too frightening or frustrating. So, once you've done that, you've completed steps 1 and 2 of step 2. Now, we are going to edit the variable types. So, if you scroll on up to step 1, you'll see a table with all the different variables that we are going to be using. You will need to change the variable types to correspond with the variables listed in that table. But happy day, it's already done. JASP guessed correctly. So the only variable that is anything other than scale is country. And look, it's already a nominal variable. Yay! Now you can cruise along to step 2 or step 4. Step 4 asks you to edit the variable labels. If you remember from the previous assignment or the previous practice, you had to edit the variable label. So it didn't say 1 and 2 anymore. It said male, female, or private campus gym. And that is a very important thing to do. You will most likely be doing that in your data analysis, but actually in the case of this assignment, since all of the variables are scale, you don't need to do that. So skip on ahead to step 6. We are going to filter the data, except we're not because we didn't add data labels and this is scale data, so we're not actually going to filter the data. If you had switched those variable labels and now you had 1 and 2 were switched to male, female, you could filter by all the female responses and all the male responses. We're not going to do that. We don't need to exclude anything from our data analysis because we just don't have to, because there's not a point in doing that. But hold up. We're going to talk about something in a second about exclusion. Hopefully I remember to come back to it. Okay, now we are going to compute a new variable. Step 5, yay! If you remember from the previous assignment, the way that you create a new variable is you press that handy plus, and then you label it. In this case, lifetime sugar consumption, or whatever you want. You pick the variable type, in this case it's scale, so that's the default. We're going to create a column, and if you look, you scroll on over, it says lifetime sugar consumption. Yay! And because we've created a new variable, we now have this handy dandy box. The way that we can compute this variable is by calculating the average sugar consumption over the previous 12 years in the country, except, hold up, it's actually the previous 13 years. That's mislabeled. If you do the previous 12 years, you will get the wrong answer. So previous 13 years. We're taking an average of the previous 13 years. Yes, you did hear me correctly. 13 years. So we are going to add all these together. We need a sum of all of these, and then we're going to divide by the number of years. So all of this, we're going to do it painfully slowly. Slow and steady wins the race, man. We do not want to have to go back and have to mess with getting rid of any of these things or putting our pluses in the wrong column. So at this point, you might be thinking, how am I going to know if I put my plus in the wrong spot? I can't even see over there. That's so annoying. Well, you hover You can scroll on over. Yep, that's really nice information to have. Please, please do that so you don't sit here doing the pluses for the next 17 years, because you will. It will be that fun if you mess it up. See, I'm pretty nervous I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess it up. Okay. 2002, 2003, plus, and now 2004. All right, so as we said, the way you take an average is you add all the options together and divide by the number of options. In this case, JASP has a lucky little tricky option where, if you see here, you have 2 division options. No, you want to do the one that looks like a division sign, so you divide the entire sum by this, not just 2004's response. So now you see the line, it's for all of them. You click here on this little line by 13, 13, 13, not 12, 13. Now we have this, we click compute column, and you'll see here it is. We have lifetime sugar consumption computed. Yay! Now we're going to move on to calculating our descriptive statistics. So as you're doing this, you're probably going to want to review those research questions. They are listed right under the table with the variables. And the research questions are, research question number 1, do countries with lower levels of sugar consumption also have lower levels of dental caries? 2, do countries with higher levels of health expenditures per person have lower numbers of dental caries? We always, 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 always want to keep those research questions in mind. So I'm going to hit the Descriptives tab, Descriptive Statistics, and we are going to look at this one, total health spending per person. This one, decay, this means dental caries. I can't remember what that stands for, and lifetime sugar consumption. So we're just going to look at the averages. We don't need to split it by anything. Here, you'll see, here you go. Here's this handy dandy information. Couple of things, like we talked about in the previous analysis, you are not going to want to do that. You are going to want to copy and paste this information into a Word document. I highly recommend you save along the way, but that you also always copy and paste into a Word document. I highly recommend you also edit titles right here. It's so fancy. Label this, because you will get a lot of results here, and it will become confusing that you have so much information listed here, and it will become not very useful. So label that. Also, this is one instance where you might also want to add some notes if there's anything in particular you see here. So you have this right here. It looks beautiful. We've calculated our descriptive statistics. You may want to look at some distribution plots. It's calculating slowly. It's late. The computer's tired. So you can see it's not necessarily normally distributed. It's not actually at all normally distributed. So you have this information, you may want to include this. Now we are going to go a step further, and we are going to look at the correlations between these variables. So if you remember back to that practice assignment, in it said if you have this type of variable and you are wondering about the relationship with this type of variable, this is the type of test that you use. If you did not do it, if you do not remember that, you need to head on back to just the previous page in Canvas, and it will tell you. We are doing 2 scale variables, and that means we have 2 continuous variables, so we are going to create a correlation matrix. The way that you create a correlation matrix is you click this handy regression button. Do not have a panic attack. I know regression analysis is terrifying, but this isn't going to be that bad. We're going to click correlation matrix. See how we have this new handy information? You scroll up, you have all your old information. Spiffy. Okay, and we are going to look at our research questions. The first one says, do countries with lower levels of sugar consumption also have lower levels of dental caries? So lower levels of sugar consumption. We're going to look at lifetime sugar consumption. Dental caries, maybe. And we're going to look at this. Well, we also would like to do the plot. So see this right here, plots, correlation matrix. We definitely want to do that in this particular instance. So if you see this looks terrifying, all those little dots are really close together, you probably want to see densities for variables. And then this information is slightly better than just that little plot. But if you look right here, and if you also look right here, you will see that yes, there does seem to be a slight correlation between lifetime sugar consumption and dental caries. Or yes, dental caries. I believe DMFT stands for decaying missing fill teeth. So there does seem to be a slight correlation between the two of them. Oh no, so sorry that you get all that information. Okay, so you can see that. Remember that you have to answer these research questions, so please make sure you're copying and pasting this information into Microsoft Word and finding a way to say this. You need 1 to 2 sentences where you talk about this. Remember that you are going to need to say this in the most delightful APA formatted way. So if I were doing it, I would copy and paste my information over and it would look like this. It would look something like this. I did this previously, so you'll see that there are this has a little bit more information. I looked at lifetime sugar consumption, total health spending, and DMFT all in the same table. You don't maybe want to do that. But then I said this. There was a positive correlation between the average lifetime sugar consumption and total health spending per person in US dollars. And this is how you report that information in APA format. You will want to do that. This is not for the same variables that we were just talking about. Lifetime sugar was not correlated with DMFT. Here you go right here. That's what we just talked about. We talked about how there's a slight positive correlation. Remember, if you are setting your p-value at 0.05, that we're saying there's not really a correlation between the two of them because this p-value is at 0.112. So choose it as decide to do with that what you like, but in this case, I say that there isn't one, and it says these results indicate that there may be additional factors not considered in the analysis. DFM. The additional factors were not considered. You're going to say that regardless of what you decide to set your p-value at, because clearly there is something at play here, but it may go a step beyond what we're seeing. You're going to do the same thing. Oh my heavens. You are going to do the same thing when you look at healthcare expenditures and dental caries. So in order to do healthcare expenditures and dental caries, I highly recommend you just click this fun little plus. And if you remember from the previous video, we talked about when you click the plus, it's actually creating a copy. So you scroll up, you have the same information right here. So you're going to want to change the title so that you're not confused, and then you're going to want to change that. In this case, we're getting rid of lifetime sugar consumption and replacing it with total healthcare spending per person. It's going to calculate slowly. It's going to calculate, and you can see there is a negative correlation between the two of them. We can see that this is significant. Our p-value is at 0.003, so it there is a correlation, and you can see when you look at this, the slope is negative, so there seems to be a slight negative correlation. You remember, if you go back and you look at the data, that there are really extreme ends of things. If we go back to these descriptive statistics, where did that go? If we scroll back up to our descriptive statistics from earlier, you will see that total healthcare spending per person, you have a mean of 682.547, but look at the standard deviation and look at the minimum versus the maximum. So your minimum healthcare spending in US dollars per person is $4.94 per person per year. Your maximum is $6,300 per person per year. There is probably something else going on in there with the dental caries other than just they spend more money, there's a relationship with dental caries. What other factors could be at play? You need to talk about what some of those other factors might be. Start to pull that out. So in the results section, you don't typically talk about the other factors might be, but in the discussion section, you do. And this is why we're talking about it now. Because if you go back to this data set, you will see I go through some of those different things. So we are talking about average annual healthcare spending per person in US dollars. So the way that I get around that is by saying the average total healthcare spending per person was $686 US dollars with a range of $4.95 for Myanmar and $6,300 for the United States with a standard deviation. Difference in healthcare spending may be an indicator of other differences between nations worthy of additional examination. This idea of additional examination is something that you need to start thinking about. You don't need to tell me the additional factors are X, Y, and Z. You need to be able to identify that there is something else here. We need to go down some rabbit hole. I mean, we're not actually going to, but this is the really interesting part of research. Yes, you found out this is the answer. The answer is that you don't know the answer. Oh my heavens, that's how research works. The answer is that you don't know the answer, and I think you future researchers should head on over down this direction. Awesome. You don't have to tell me what the answer is. You just have to indicate where I need to go. So that's what I want you to do here. I want you to take that extra step and say, okay, I looked at this. When I looked at my regression analysis, this is what I saw. In my correlation matrix, I see, I see that there does seem to be a negative relationship between decay, missing, filled teeth. I think that's, there does seem to be a negative relationship between total healthcare spending and DMFT. Why? Why does there seem to be a negative correlation between the two of them? Why does there seem to be such a large difference? You can see there is quite a significant difference. Start to make those interpretations. So let's chat a little bit further about what your paper needs to look like. Your paper needs to look something like this. An example will be posted, but unfortunately, this is not currently in APA format. This part is where you report the statistics in paragraph form. This is correct, but this, you need to review APA formatting guidelines and make sure that all your tables, charts, facts, figures are in APA format, because as you will notice, that is part of every rubric. Actually, the very, every rubric requires that you do APA format, except that this one does not, because we have removed it. Whatever. You need to do it in APA format. Make sure that you have your label. It's going to say figure 1.1, and they'll be right here. And the title. Make sure that you do that. Just make sure that you do it to get yourself in the habit of doing it, because while it may not be on this particular rubric, it is going to be on the final paper rubric. It is going to be on your results rubric, and you do not want to miss points for that, because you will be so mad. You'll be so mad that I took off points for something that seems so dumb, and I will be so mad that I had to take off points for something that I agree seems so ridiculous. So if you have any questions about JASP, let me know. As we said, running the actual statistics is not particularly difficult. Lifetime sugar consumption, you add up all the years, 1992 through 2004, divide by 13, make sure you use this division sign, and then once you do that, you can head on into that descriptive statistics. You want to look at total health care spending per person, DMFT, and lifetime sugar consumption. You just want the mean. See, Scroll on over and you have all of those. You want to correctly label this, make some notes about what it means, copy and paste it into a Word document. Then you want to go into regression analysis and the correlation matrix, and you want to look at total healthcare spending per person and DMFT. Run that test. It's populating slowly. It's thinking. Have that. Then you want to make sure you have the correlation matrix. Click that box. Densities per variables. It's thinking slowly. You have this information. You want to do a second one that looks at lifetime sugar consumption and DMFT. It's thinking slowly. You get this information. You want to make sure all of this is labeled, make your notes as you go along, and then you want to copy and paste that into a Word document and answer the research questions. Be very specific. Research question number 1, answer to research question number 1 with corresponding charts, tables, facts, figures. Sentences, you want to have between 2 and 5 sentences for each research question. Research question number 2, corresponding charts, facts, figures. 2 to 5 sentences answering that research question. If you have any questions, please let me know. APA format at 12-point font, 1-inch margins, double spaced, all of that jazz. Make sure that those tables, charts, facts, figures are labeled in APA format, figure 1.1, etc. Things like that. If you have any questions, please let me know.